2번 연속 참가하게 돼서 너무너무 기쁘고, 만약에 제가 이번 시즌 참가를 못했다고 생각을 하면은 슬프면서도 허전했을 것 같아요. 초반에 제가 포인트를 잘 쌓아둬서 2년 연속 이렇게 참가하게 돼서 정말 기쁘게 생각을 하고 있어요. 기뻤지만은 한편으로는 좀 걱정이 됐어요. 내심 아무래도 좀 변수가 많은 푸푸전이고, 그리고 또 진짜 제 상대분에 대한 정보가 많이 부족한 이런 상태여가지고 준비를 어떻게 해야 될까 이런 걱정이 들었어요. 3번 만나서 제가 다 이겼다고 말씀을 하셨는데, 사실 3번 만나서 이겼다는 이런 기억조차 없어요. 그만큼 조금 경기력에 대해서는 임팩트가 없었던 것 같고, 그나마 조금 부담이 되는 부분은 사이언 선수가 어떤 플레이를 할지, 어떻게 저를 공략해 들어올지, 그런 게 조금 걱정인데, 대처를 해서 경기에 이렇게 들고 나오면은 무난하게 이길 수 있을 것 같습니다. 사이언 선수 되게 운 없게도 저를 만나게 됐는데, 아쉽지만 이번에는 좋은 경험 하시고 돌아가셨으면 좋겠고, 경기 때에는 서로 최선을 다해서 재밌는 경기 했으면 좋겠습니다.
很荣幸能作为中国的代表参与这场比赛。打过很多比赛了，我现在已经克服了紧张等心态，所以我能够在比赛上发挥得很好，而且我很享受这个过程，能够很享受的比赛。在之前的比赛中，主要是锻炼实力，然后去感受队友的实力，没有说特别的认真。然后在这样的线下赛当中的话，会让他知道，真正的实力，并且让他感受到中国神族的，打法风格。其实我对战胜把本的话还是有非常大的把握的，因为神族内战本来就是一个很扑朔迷离的对抗，谁赢都有可能。虽然的确存在着实力差距，但是我会通过我赛前精心准备的战术，让他大吃一惊。我觉得我很有把握的机会战胜他，感受暴风雨一样的疯狂进攻吧。
Seoul, Korea. Freak Up Studio Live 2018. GSL versus the world. I won't be great. I'm going away. Every moment.
All right, we're back here at the GSL versus the world. We have Stats and Cyan. Coming up next, Cyan, a strong player from China. China's always had a long history of making great esports players since the early days of StarCraft 1. They do approach the game in a different way, but I wonder if this is going to be a benefit for him. When you get a player like, Stats, who I guess he's good all around, but he is kind of more of a standard player.
Well, he sure seemed to be pretty confident from that interview, right? Saying, I have my own way to play, and Stats is saying he's worried about that. He said he's sure he'll win. I don't know if he's completely sure about that, since Stats has basically been the Protoss for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Stats' PvP is not in question, whereas Cyan's kind of is. That's how I feel coming into the series. Like, yes, some of the series I have seen from Cyan, generally they're online, he plays a lot of online tournaments. He beats his home, his fellow countryman Gesture quite often in PvP. But Cyan is like, if we are going to see Dark Shrines and Proxy Robos, this is going to be the guy that drops him in the series. Stats is more of your regular, sort of run-of-the-mill Protoss player, although he might change it up against his opponent if he feels confident, whereas Cyan is the kind of guy that, like Stats even mentioned in his interview, very strategically dangerous.
For me, it's not just about Cyan's PvP, but it's more Cyan overall. Like, how good is he at the moment? I think it's really hard to say. 2 years ago, I really thought that he was going to be the next big player coming out of China. He was looking better than all the other Chinese Protosses. He was the next Jim and Maxed, but that truly took his game to the next level. He made it to a finals of the Neo Star League where he lost against Snoot. But eventually he even became kind of like a commentator. He's been commentating a lot of events as well. Now going from commentating events to playing against Stats, that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, but don't sleep on him. This guy is 6,300 MMR on the Korean ladder. He just won GPL Season 3. I think he's got a shot.
Damn. Well, we're going to get into game number 1 between Stats and Cyan. Let's go to Redshift. And the bottom left here.
Ready, fight.
Our player from Splice. This is
Splice Stats.
And on the left top side of Redshift, we're looking at the main base of our Chinese Protoss. It is Cyan.
Top Sports Gaming, Cyan.
Well, that's the hardest part of this cast over and done with. The intro of the players.
Redshift as our very first map in this PvP. That's an interesting one, to say the least. This is one of the more vetoed maps out there in pretty much every matchup, but especially in PvP as well. There are a couple of weird plays possible. There's of course a lot of space in the back of your pocket expand, which is that gold base. Now I don't expect either of these two players to take that gold too early on, but even just the prism unloading to a depth on the other side of that gold mineral line can be very hard to deal with. And of course, don't forget about the blink stalkers, right? Like if this is Has, or even just a pylon where you warp in units on the other side of that mineral line, this is a tricky map, and I'm really curious to see how these two will play it.
Yeah, certainly. It's like a small, like very, very minor differences between both players is that, you know, Cyan basically took his gateway like a little bit earlier than his second gateway rather, a little bit later than Stats, and he's already dropping a proxy pylon, so maybe trying to hide some tech here as Stats comes up to the main base for a pretty good scout of what's happening.
Now in that last series, we clearly saw that ShoWTimE was the more defensive Protoss, and that Zest was way more aggressive than his opponent, and that went through the entire best of 5. In this series, I'm obviously expecting Cyan to be the more aggressive one of the two. We often praise Stats about being the best defensive Protoss in the world. You know, he's a little similar to that old school Protoss hero we had in the name of Rain, who was also that super solid defensive Protoss. I think that's going to be the trend throughout this best of 5, but maybe Cyan can surprise us, and maybe he can actually play some greedy economic styles. And you know, we didn't even see a single disruptor in that entire best of 5.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It seemed like a really good unit for the styles that both players were going for there, specifically like, you know, ShoWTimE's big immortal account advantages could have been dealt with a little bit in that regard. But Cyan's dropping this Templar Archives. He still has that pylon out here on the map, and Stats is scouting around with his probe still, trying to keep it alive. Nothing's been dropped to this pylon yet. Doesn't quite see it. So I'm wondering what's happening here. Is there going to be a Dark Shrine on this pylon? This is a weird place to warp in from. It's too far away from your opponent.
Yeah, it could have just been a scout, and maybe he feels it's unlikely that Cyan is really going to run units to the other, or that Stats is going to run units to the other side of the map to deal with that pylon. So sometimes it can just be a scout, because he's obviously dropping tech in his main.
Yep.
Now Stats on the other side is playing very solid and defensive at home, as we see an extra gate, an extra robotics facility as well already. His first robo, now it's just a blink opening for now for Cyan. I do love blink openings on this map because I think it's really good to obviously control the pace of the game. But like I said, you can also have a 4-stalker hit squad blink over that gold mineral line and then eventually pick off a couple probes and perhaps even recall those stalkers. But for now it's actually Stats who seems to be quite eager to start applying some pressure on the other side of the map.
Yeah, signs of that being that War Prism there, not needing Blink when you have that War Prism to control your Stalkers around. It's very, very annoying to deal with defensively. I like this from Cyan. Cute little strategy there, just going for a hallucinated Oracle, maybe just trying to force an overreaction from Stats or a defensive warp in or something like that. Stats already pressuring that Nexus, warping in here at this pylon.
Yeah, you have to be careful though. There is obviously a sentry here in the mix. Is he going to activate a Guardian Shield? No, maybe looks for a Force Field. He could potentially drop that Force Field, but he doesn't want to waste it. Maybe he feels like he couldn't trap. That Stalker count of Stats suddenly got quite high very quickly. And Cyan now has to make the tough choice. Is he going to try to keep this Nexus alive or not? I think he is going to try, but it also means he's going to pay the price for quite a few Stalkers. If you want to go down that ramp, Cyan, you need, or maybe Force Field, he wants to trick him. Drop.
Does the other forceful energy here. His sentry's quite low on juice. It gets targeted down and killed. And now the Warp Prism is here for Stats, and it's going to get harder and harder for Cyan to hold on. This is looking bad already for the Chinese Protoss.
I think he had 2 sentries, and he lost the one that still had energy, that didn't hallucinate that Oracle. And I think he was hoping for a lucky Force Field. He didn't get it. And now Stats is just going to get some high ground vision as well with that Prism. He has a lot of micro potential with this Warp Prism as well. And yes, Blink may finish up in 10 seconds from now, but is Cyan even going to have any gateway left by then?
Well, Stats has his own 200 mineral vision of Blink right here. He doesn't even need it. He's got those overwhelming numbers, and Blink Micro is kind of technically here for both players. And Stats is over control. He's out controlling Cyan very much so here. He's going to take out part of his production, and he's broken through the wall here. Couple of these warp gates going down. Cyan is in big trouble.
Yep, there's no HP. He goes for the forward blink. He doesn't even get the prism. Loses all his stalkers in the process.
And GG Stats with a very clean, convincing game 1 here in the series against Cyan. Wow, that was a buffet.
Yep, and that's also nice from Stats. I mean, we always talk about how strong he is defensively, and he's like, hey guys, like, if you want me to be aggressive, if you want me to give you guys some shorter games, I can do that too. It was very clean by Stats. I think Cyan got a tiny bit unlucky. Obviously, he hallucinated an Oracle, so he didn't have a Guardian Shield available. Then he got the second Sentry, and then I think he was waiting first maybe for a Guardian Shield, and then his idea clearly was, you know, I'm gonna lure your Stalkers onto my ramp, and then I'm gonna drop a Force Field before the Prism shows up, and maybe I can shave off a couple Stalkers, and that way I can actually get myself in a good position if it's one base against one base. But I have Blink, but unfortunately he lost his second Sentry, the one that could have potentially dropped that Force Field, and then, well, obviously you give Stats a Prism and no units are gonna fall.
Yeah, indeed, and we're going to go to 16-bit here for game number 2 with Stats taking an incredibly fast game 1. I think that was, what, 5 minutes, 6 minutes game? And we are ready to get into it, guys. Let's start that countdown. All right, in the bottom left here, currently up 1 in the series. This is...
Splice. Stats.
And on the right top side of 16-bit, we're looking in the main base of the Chinese Protoss. He goes by
Top Sports Gaming. Cyan.
Cyan, tomato. However you want to slice it. And 16-bit's is one of those maps. I remember ShoWTimE in the green room earlier was just saying, like, the reason he vetoed this map is he just thinks the Koreans are too good on it. There's too many memes.
Yes.
A direct quote there from Tobias.
too many memes. I wonder what that even means, because I feel if you just open one gate, Stargate, and then you go for the expand, the worst thing that could happen is that one gate, Stargate, expand, right? Is that your opponent win maybe a quick Nexus, sometimes even Nexus first. That is something you will actually see on this map. And there's a good chance that you may be down economically a tiny bit, but if you're up in the Phoenix count, you can still turn things around like that. But this obviously is a tricky map. You can say there is a little bit of gambling going on if you both play Phoenix, because if you fight on the other side of the map, there is a good chance that you have a Phoenix less and you lose the game. And on the other hand, if you stay at your own side of the map and you just don't have the information and your opponent suddenly goes for very quick Dark Templars or makes some other crazy transition or goes very quick Fleet Beacon, it becomes kind of a guessing game, and some players just prefer to avoid that.
So Stats has gone and scouted to see that Cyan's gone for a full wall-off here, and it looks like both players with a 1-gate opening are looking to take a quick second Nexus. But
I would say I really like Stargate before Nexus. I'm a big fan of that, but I know a lot of the pros prefer Nexus and then the Stargate, but Stats is with me, man.
Stats is with you, and so is Cyan. There it is.
Yeah.
And he's gone for Zealot first here. Seems really, really worried about like an early, you know, any kind of early damage from Stats. Both players actually starting with that Zealot first.
It's just nice because like you're not really gonna use the gate bet for anything else. You don't want to spend too much of your gas first. Now there is a chance that Cyan maybe tries to get something weird done with that probe that he still has out on the map. I personally don't think that certain builds where you try to win on one base because you know it's going to be Phoenix against Phoenix, but you go for Phoenix Gateway all in, it's simply not that strong on this map because you still have to go up this tiny ramp, and that just makes things very complicated and very awkward. So I think for now it's just a lot of scouting, but I'd be shocked if Cyan decides not to expand. I kind of think it's time to expand, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's heading towards 400 minerals, so it looks like that's going to be the case here. He's gone for a shield battery as well, which is a little bit, it's also slowed down his Nexus a little bit to get that shield battery. It doesn't seem super useful here.
I don't really get, I feel like they're both playing a little too defensive for what is 16-bit. I mean, this is already a defensive map in and by itself. I thought that Stats had a shield battery as well. They're both getting Warp Gate, despite the fact that they are both playing Phoenixes. Now, obviously, that's not super weird, but every now and then you'll see people skip it, just because, like, well, what is Warp Gate really gonna do if it's Phoenix against Phoenix anyway?
Some players even skipping Warp Gate altogether and just making a lot of robotics units and plenty of Phoenix.
I mean, like on this map, you'll see it pretty often because it's like, okay, we're both gonna go Phoenix, and we'll most likely go second Stargate, and then eventually we drop a Fleet Beacon.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to transition out of a Phoenix versus Phoenix battle. Now, Stats, I would still say, has a minor advantage just because his Nexus is quite a bit quicker, and I feel that Cyan played a little too passive at first and a little too worried almost. If you're the underdog, you shouldn't really be worried about all the things that could potentially kill you. Just trust your instinct, and obviously Cyan's instinct here was it's gonna be Phoenix versus Phoenix. then you don't need that shield battery. Just forget about it.
It's so hard though, like you're coming into Korea here, it's not a huge flight for someone from China, but you're on that GSL stage, which is home grounds for Stats. He's been up there so many times, he's very, very comfortable, and you can see that everything's just a little bit later for Cyan than it is for Stats. Stats has that quicker second Stargate, he had that quicker second Nexus, he's just ahead in pretty much every single way here, except for Army Supply.
Yep. Now it's still going to be hard for Stats to just fly to the other side of the map and win a Phoenix fight. That is something you clearly only want to do if you are convinced you have 2-3 Phoenixes more, that even if your opponent Phoenix just spawned, you're still going to be okay-ish. I think Cyan is hoping that he can take a fight on his side of the map. Now obviously eventually you need to scout as an opponent, otherwise you have to be worried about that crazy Dark Templar transition, which does happen sometimes, so you can't keep your Phoenix at home forever. On the other hand, once again, you don't want to just end up in that Phoenix versus Phoenix fight on the other side of the map, and this is what makes Phoenix against Phoenix quite tricky on this map.
Yeah. It feels like it's a standoff until the Fleet Beacon gets done, and then the guy that gets Anion Pulse Crystals first usually dives to try and hit that timing. It's almost certainly the case. If the game goes that long, of course, sometimes you have more Stalkers on the ground, and that can make the difference in the battle.
I like what Stats is doing here though. He's clearing out the Zelnaga watchtowers. He's going to pick up this Stalker as well. Now losing a Stalker is not a big deal in a Phoenix versus Phoenix battle, but it's just nice for Stats to get some more map information, because then at least he knows if the Phoenixes are doing something crazy. You got to be careful. I like this engage from Cyan first, but I do think Stats had a few more units. You can see Stats' Phoenix count is higher, but he still has 2 Phoenixes on the other side of the map, so he has to be very careful. That was an excellent trade for Cyan.
Yeah, I agree with you, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Cyan had his Phoenixes stacked on top of each other first, so they all fired at the same time at the single Phoenixes there of Stats. It's very, very important to control like that. I think it's referred to as a Phoenix flower. It can make or break a difference. Like, even if you're up 1 or 2 Phoenixes, you can still lose the fight if you just go straight into that ball of Phoenix.
Is Cyan still fully walled in? He's not, right? He's got a probe in position as well, I believe, to wipe in another Nexus. Now Stats is going to drop the Fleet Beacon. This is quite normal after you go up to 3 bases. This is when you want to drop that beacon. This also means that if Cyan would go very crazy on the Phoenix count, and he actually tries to fight right before any Impulse Crystals is done, you could say this is technically a perfect moment to fight for Cyan, because he won that previous Phoenix fight. He is not investing in a Fleet Beacon yet. It's of course still very hard to really engage into the Phoenix of your opponent, but if there ever was a perfect moment, he goes triple Stargate. It feels a tiny bit late for a triple Stargate timing, because by the time he gets his first Phoenix out of Stargate number 3, any Impulse Crystals is going to be done. So Cyan, if this is how you want to play, he needs to force the fight in the next 20 seconds, because you can't fight anymore once any Impulse Crystals, as we call it often, Phoenix range is done.
Yeah, that extra bit of range there for the Phoenixes means that if Stats controls really, really well, which he generally does, he can actually just chase those Phoenixes all the way home and kill them without taking any damage on his own Phoenixes, which is going to be doom for Cyan.
It's just very hard to ever engage into your opponent, because basically think of a tank line where you have to roll in your tanks before you siege up and your opponent is already shooting at you. Now that's something you would never do. And that's kind of how you can see Phoenix range versus no Phoenix range. The Phoenixes that don't have range, they're going to fly into a zone where they will just get willed at by the enemy Phoenixes, and you lose 3 or 4 Phoenixes before your own Phoenix ever even fight in the first place. Now Cyan is getting his own Fleet Beacon as well. I think the order made more sense the way that Stats did it. You know, you get 2 Stargates, then you go up to 3 bases, then you get the Fleet Beacon. But maybe he can buy enough time for himself to get his own Phoenix range out. But there is a good chance, like you said, that the moment Stats has his any Impulse Crystals, which we can see is in 7 seconds from now, that he's going to try to get a fight going on the other side of the map. And he can even just fight for like 5 or 6 seconds where he has range and his opponent doesn't have range. This is going to be an overwhelming victory for Stats.
Yeah, it's been very passive this game, except for that one engagement near the back natural there of Cyan. And oh my god, Stats is going to hit this timing, and it's going to be bad for Cyan, I think. There it is, that extra bit of range. He gets 1 Phoenix immediately and chases him all the way home. Cyan is going to run out of map to hide on soon. He turns and fights. Stats already has the number advantage though.
The turn and fight is nice, but Stats just has way more Phoenixes by now. He still has range. His damage output is insane compared to the Phoenixes of Cyan. I think this is going to be it, Maynard.
Yeah,
you cannot come back from this anymore.
No, it's as simple as that. Unfortunately, a little bit of an underwhelming ending, but that's kind of how it happens sometimes in PvP with his Phoenix Wars. He's lost the air, and that's going to be it. And Stats with a 2-0 lead quite quickly here against Cyan. He's making this series look easy.
This was a very clean game by Stats. It was first a battle for vision, where he took control of the Zeltnaga watchtowers. And what I love the most is he had random pylons going up on the other side of the map. And that pylon spotted the Phoenixes. And he's like, hey, you don't have Phoenix range. I do. Let's take a look. And then he started the fight. Like I said, all you need is 2 or 3 seconds. You immediately pick up 3 or 4 Phoenixes. Yeah. And you're like, cool, now I can go for it. So looking back at it, I really think if you're Cyan and you want to go triple Stargate before Fleet Beacon, which is not, considered to be the most optimal way to play Phoenix versus Phoenix. If you want to do that, you have to go 3 Stargates very quick. You only chrono boost Phoenix, and you pick a fight on the other side of the map. You cannot just sit at home with 3 Stargates, because you know your opponent will most likely have Phoenix range way before you.
Yeah, quite right, Roddy. The PvP expert himself breaking it down for us here, and man, Cyan is against the ropes. It's been about 20 minutes and he's already on match point here and not in his favor. Let's see if Cyan can fight back on Acid Plant. With the countdown beginning now. Stats and Cyan, game 3. In the bottom right here, on match point, this is
Splice Stats.
On the left top side, we're looking at the main base of the Chinese Protoss. He said it's an honor to be here. Let's hope he at least gets a map. It is.
Top Sports Gaming, Cyan.
Cyan is an incredibly hard-working Protoss, plays a lot of online tournaments, very high MMR in Korea, but this is Stats we're talking about here. This isn't any regular Protoss. The Shield of Ire, as he's called, a multiple-time champion. It's a little bit tough to make this work, and that is one handsome fellow out there in the crowd that's clearly having a little love here for GSL versus the world.
There are too many handsome people in this crowd, man.
There really is. It's something that you think you should complain about, but then you realize that you should just grin and bear it.
No, I would never complain about such
Exactly.
I embrace it.
It's just like, sometimes you see people like ShoWTimE, like Zest, that are not only good-looking, but also really good.
You can complain about that.
Yeah,
that's just not fair.
Like, when you're good-looking and talented, it's like, come on, mate.
Yeah.
Leave some for the rest of us, okay? A lot of us are struggling here.
I know, it's ridiculous. But well, Maynard, we're still very fortunate individuals to even be standing here.
You can't tell me twice, man. I just had a cheeky smile on my face all day, like a 6-year-old kid that's gone to Disneyland for the first time. So I feel like being here in the Africa studio.
The first time today where I really felt this was during the rehearsals, and we took a look at that introduction video with the tattoos. I was like, oh my goodness,
that
it's
was
so freaking
sick.
cool. I got really excited for it, and then it's only you forget about the jet lag, you forget about the long travel and how hot it is over here as well in Korea. Of course, in the studio it's nice and cold, but I was like, damn, this is gonna be so cool. And so far, I definitely think it has been freaking cool. I mean, Maru versus Su, you were casting it. It was amazing.
Oh, wow.
ShoWTimE already getting the victory today over Zest. I mean, that's something that we couldn't really have dreamed of last year. They got close. They put up a decent fight in the individual tournament, but ShoWTimE really showing us here that he's not here to mess around, and it will only get better from here.
Looking forward to him versus Maru. He thinks it's a wash. We'll wait and see. We see Cyan going for a proxy Stargate here out the top north position of Stats' main. Stats going for a Twilight opening, very likely Blink Stalker. And let's see if this proxy Oracle from Cyan can get a fair bit of probe damage. Obviously, Stats is already making Stalkers, but where are they being rallied?
What if he goes DTs? Does he still have the probe next to the pylon in natural? There's a good chance. We'll see. But Blink would make a lot of sense here, because Blink is that kind of opening. Stats is scouting.
Oh, wow.
And Stats
Peekaboo.
is, of course, going to find that Stargate on the right side of the map. Perfect moment as well, like 3 or 4 seconds before that Oracle comes out. And this makes such a big difference, guys. Otherwise, those Stalkers would have been out of position.
That's right.
Cyan is not really catching a break here, and Stats is just doing everything right.
Yeah, Cyan's just like, well, here's the revelation. And Stats is like, you opened Stargate? That's cool. I know how to punish that. Let's get a Dark Shrine up.
Yeah, if the Oracle scouts it, I think it doesn't have to be that bad, but for now the Oracle does not scout it. When I saw that pylon, I already had the feeling it was a Dark Shrine pylon. Just kind of had it written all over it, didn't it?
So you think he intended to do this before he even saw the Stargate?
Yeah, I think so. Otherwise you don't build your pylon there.
That's true. It's not a very good position to shield batteries, that's for sure.
No, you don't really get rapid warpins from it either, so I think that was his plan all along. But he was definitely pleased when he saw the Stargate. I'm with you on that one, Maynard.
Yeah. of course, you know, if you go Stargate opening, that means you don't have a Robo generally, at least for a while. So that mobile detection, that constant detection of the Oracle, of the Observer rather, means now that Cyan's gonna have to use this Oracle to tag those DTs. He sees the Dark Shrine, so that's good for Cyan.
Now he wants to see it finish up as well. He's like, before I panic at home and I fire up 2 more Oracles and I warp in the robotics facility, you can't lose your Oracle, Cyan. This is tricky. I think he might want to tag it. On the other hand, he has to be very careful. Okay, he cancelled it. Cyan will get the confirmation. I'm a little bit surprised that Stats cancelled it. The Dark Shrine is honestly not that expensive. I would say it's always nice to have the Dark Shrine because you know you're forcing out a reaction anyway on the other side of the map.
And it's a constant threat as well, so you need to have an Oracle at home at all times, because if you don't, you can just straight up die.
And don't forget about those tree-based scenarios where you start having Warp Prisms. Dealing with a couple of Zealots in your main is annoying. Dealing with Zealots and Dark Templars, there it becomes super annoying and it becomes a very risky game immediately.
Absolutely.
So I honestly think Stats could have let that finish up, but he wants to play it safe. He wants to get those resources back. He doesn't have his blink yet. I must say, out of the 3 games so far, I like this the best with Cyan. Like, he's actually not behind. He has played very safe. He didn't really get a lot done either, but I still like it.
Yeah, the opening gave him lemons, but he's making lemonade here. You see, he's managed to actually turn this into a pretty solid game. His Robo's about the same time as Stats' and Blink is a little bit further ahead for Stats, but that's not the biggest of deals, because it doesn't look like Stats is going to be aggressive here. He's just holding things down because the Oracles are keeping him at home. Picks off 1 Oracle, though. Yeah. That's a nice little pick off there for Stats.
I think you could see some of the nerfs there for Cyan as well. He clearly misclicked on one of those probes. The Oracles went too far to the north side of that Nexus, and then he was a little bit indecisive. He's like, should I get 1 or 2 more probes? No, I'm going to try to save it. And right on that moment, Blink finishes up, and he ends up losing an Oracle anyway. So, tiny bit unfortunate, but he's still up 5 workers. He's getting Blink. He's down in the stock account, but he has a Robo. So if you just crank out Immortals, which is what our Chinese Protoss is doing, it's not that bad, Maynard.
That is true. I was getting a little bit worried about that stock account difference there. 12 versus 5, pretty huge, but you're absolutely right. Immortal can make the difference of 3 or 4 Stalkers just by being controlled well, especially when you have a War Prism with it as well. And at least the proxy's being cleaned up here for Stats. The Oracle coming in the main again, just for scouting purposes.
Stasis.
Doesn't have a lot of juice. No stasis. Come on, mate.
Hey, it's pretty good actually, every now and then. Because like a lot of Protosses will ignore a single Oracle in the main base if they have a shield battery. They're like, what is that Oracle ever gonna do? And then suddenly your entire mineral line is frozen. You're like, I guess that's what it's gonna do, isn't it?
But if you pull the probes and you have a Stalker there already, you can kill that stasis before it finishes, right? I mean, you have to be looking at it, of course.
If you put it between the mineral patches, you just tuck it away over there, man.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You don't give that all those probes surface area.
I love learning PvP with you. Got these Stalkers being muscled away from that high ground of Cyan. He's trying to get his 3rd Nexus up. 3rd is a little bit later here for Stats. Does have that army supply advantage, though.
But it's mostly Stalkers, like we said earlier. I think the one real advantage that Stats has is that his Forge was quite a bit quicker, so he's going to have +1 a little bit quicker. But Cyan is not neglecting the Forge. He got a Forge as well, and he started +1 immediately the moment it finished up. So once again, guys, out of the 3 games we saw so far, this is by far and away the best position that Cyan has been in. And it doesn't mean he's winning this game, not at all, but it's 7 minutes deep, and we're actually quite even.
Yeah, and we're heading into the Immortal Charge Light Archon phase of this PvP, and that's when Stalkers kind of become useless. That said, though, that was a nice pick off there, getting that Sentry. Getting rid of Sentries is quite nice. Oh, okay. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
No more tags here on the army of Stats, no more harassment. He's lost that proxy, the Stargate's dead.
Yeah, that is definitely unfortunate, because you really felt there was a little bit more potential with those 2 Oracles when he still had them alive. Losing the 1 is like, well, at least you still have that 1 Oracle. You stack that army, you know your opponent made more Stalkers, which is not necessarily what Stats want in a big straight-up battle. So obviously he's going to be always active and mobile with these Stalkers. If you have your Oracle around, you just stack them every now and then, and you shouldn't really take any damage. So it's a shame for our Chinese Protoss that he lost that 1, but he's still in it.
Stats is really on top of his upgrades. The instant second that +1 finishes, he goes for +2. So he's going to have that upgrade lead shortly here. Shade in forward from Cyan. He's just having a look to see what's going on for the defenses of Stats.
But Stats is not crazy. He saw the shade, so he knows the adepts are right there somewhere. Now at least he's shading through the Stalkers, so Cyan should have a good idea of where the Stalkers are. But Stats split up his army, actually. He split it up in 2 groups, which was very well done. And that forced Cyan not to let this shade finish, because if he wouldn't let it finish, he would have lost them in the middle of the map anyway. Now he tried to get a couple probes out of it, unfortunately for him.
I like this from Cyan. Obviously, there's no Phoenixes to worry about here, but there's a hallucinated Phoenix. Does it see the Prism?
I don't know if I like it by Cyan though, because there's a lot of Blink Stalkers out on the map, He knows Blink is done, so even defensive Stalker is something you really have to worry about. But he also has to worry about his army at home. Is his army big enough right now to deal with that massive army of stats that's running to the other side of the map? Let's see.
Well, he's going for a warp in here. He has charge, so the charge is going to help out.
The other pylon on the south side, Maynard. How do we call those pylons?
I think that's an Artosis pylon right there, Roddy. That's
Go
powering
for it.
quite a lot. Cyan's worried about the defense. Oh my god, look at this army from Stats. Where these shield batteries are here on the high ground. They're not in the natural. This is such a horrible position for Cyan to engage into.
Yeah, it's gonna drop.
Oh.
That's not a bad force with actually. He
Yeah,
gets a few
nice.
zealots, he gets the sentries. He can still fall back to those batteries on the right. Go for that pylon, Cyan. That pylon was everything that you needed. Now you can maybe recall that prism. I think it's still doable for Cyan as long as he falls back to those batteries every now and then.
He lost that Archon. That's going to hurt him out a little bit here. Looks like some charge lots going to come in here for Cyan to help out. Remember that Stats has plus to attack, so these Stalkers are hitting pretty hard. He's going to try and get that natural done before Cyan can amass the army he needs, picking up these sentries, getting an Immortal as well. In comes that Prism. It got recalled to the third.
Yep, so he's going to be able to drop 2 more Immortals. And now what is Stats going to do? I think Stats might actually recall himself. No. Whoa, what is that? Blink,
what a
Stats.
blink.
That is a madman. What? No, why would you do that? He just blinked into Zealots and 3 Immortals. All those Stalkers disappear. And of course, Stats did a lot of economic damage. But he lost a lot of very valuable units.
Oh, Stats is back for the second wave here. He gets that pylon, unpowers his shield
That's sick,
batteries, and
actually.
that's the defensive capabilities here of Cyan. They're all concentrated here on this location. He has 1 more shield barrier in that third, but once again, nothing in that natural. So as he cleans up the charge lots here, Stats is able to continue to pressure. This charge lot count is going to help him against these Immortals.
Yeah, this army of Cyan is not very good in dealing with Zealots. He really doesn't have much. He doesn't have a single Archon anymore. Now the Archons are coming in from the right side, but is it too late? He loses the Prism, loses his Immortals as well.
Yeah, it's 4 Archons versus 3, and he has that Prism alive still. Stats going for this big offensive warp in. More charge lots coming in, and I don't know if Cyan has enough to hold. These 3 Archons are close in the distance, but the Prism micro from Stats pretty damn good here, keeping these Archons alive for as long as possible. Trying for another warp in here.
These Archons are so low on HP, but that goes for both of them. The Archons of Cyan are very low on HP as well. Sick micro being displayed by
my
Stats.
God.
Oh, Stats, you are such a sick little Protoss. Recall?
Yeah. Those 2 Archons got so much done. Killing an Archon of Cyan, doing a lot of probe damage. He really hurt the Chinese Protoss there with that attack.
If only Cyan was able to pick off that pylon that was powering the forge and those 4 gateways, then I think he has a much easier time cleaning it up at home. I think honestly, you walked in a couple of Zealots that he did, that was all fine. You pick up the pylons, you recall the Prism and those 2 Immortals home immediately, and I think he holds convincingly because it really started off quite well for Cyan. The force fields were good, he was dancing back and forth to his shield batteries, which I really like. But in the end, I think he recalled a little too late.
Also, I just realized he lost his Forge with +2 on the way. So he's about to be down 2 attack upgrades, which is going to really, really hurt him when they come down to fighting again.
Yep.
+3 on the way here for Stats. That Forge never being rebuilt for Cyan.
And don't forget that second wave that Stats went for, he got right on top of those Immortals as well. Now, Cyan would have been down 15 workers, but he would have saved 3 or 4 Immortals. I'd be like, hey, that's still something he can really work with. But he also lost all of his Immortals, and that just makes it very...
Oh, that Prism's just chipping the paint off of that bad boy, but it's still alive. It's got those battle scars from earlier. Cyan getting a Prism of his own here, and it looked like he wanted to be aggressive, but high ground up against that army with all these upgrades to Stats, not a fight he really wants to pick here, so he repositions, he's recircling his army around.
This is rough though for Cyan, because he knows, of course, that he lost the Forge as well. He knows that Stats is already on +2, and there is a good chance that eventually turns into a +3. And what do you do if you're Cyan? Like, Cyan is worried that if he probes up too much, if he goes for all the tech buildings once again, that he's gonna lose against the next big attack from Stats. But if he doesn't do anything, he's also going to lose. So it's kind of like you have to pick between 2 evils and you have to find the lesser one, but maybe some sort of a base trade.
Oh, these Stalkers already positioned for Stats.
So,
oh, is he able to
oh
save
my
that?
God.
Oh, okay, that's almost the nail in the coffin here for Cyan. All he has is his army, and it is half the army supply here of Stats until that warp in there, and he's going to go and attack into that natural again. And Cyan does not have much at home at all. He's in the middle of the map. He could potentially recall, but recall into some +3 attack units very shortly here. This is looking very bad for Cyan.
things go from bad to worse for the Chinese Protoss, as it seems like this army of Stats is just a little too big and is also a little too powerful as it has the better upgrades. It has great positioning as well.
Wow.
Zealots in the main, Zealots on the right top side as well. I think this one is over, Maynard.
I think so. Stats dismantling the Chinese Protoss here in this best of 5. 3-0. Stats moves on to the next round without breaking a sweat here on stage.
Said he didn't know much about his opponent, so he was obviously a little worried about that, knowing that this is going to be a PvP, and having information can absolutely be key on your opponent. But Stats is showing us that if you're very good, you don't have to worry that much. He played a very good best of 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Very clean, very crisp, showing that he does still have those skills. And we cannot wait to see him in that next round. And neither can this lovely crowd.
Stats, of course, will go up against the winner of Special versus Has, which is going to be our next series. But for now, let's hear from the man himself, Stats.
Let's go winner. Stats. Sorry. Congratulations. 먼저 3대0 승리 소감부터 들어보겠습니다.
Can you please tell us about your 3-0 perfect victory today?
푸프전이어가지고 오늘 당일 컨디션과 그리고 운이 많이 좀 따라야 이렇게 3대0 승부가 나는 것 같은데 오늘 저한테 운이 많이 따라줬고 그리고 컨디션도 좋아가지고 네 좋은 경기력 보여드릴 수 있었던 것 같습니다.
PvP generally requires a good form on that particular day and also a little bit of luck. I think both factors worked in my favor. Therefore, I was able to acquire the victory.
네. 혹시 김대엽 선수는 대진운이 좋다고 생각하십니까?
Do you think you have a good matchup luck?
아무래도 한국 선수들하고 이렇게 만나는 것보다는 외국 선수분들하고 이렇게 붙는 게 더 마음적으로는 편하다고 해야 될까요? 그래가지고 좀 그 부분에 대해서는 대진우는 좋았던 것 같습니다.
그렇군요.
I believe I have a slight edge in terms of bracket drawing because I feel emotionally a lot more comfortable playing versus non-Koreans than Korean counterparts.
네. 이제 8강 무대도 이제 해외 선수 중에서 만나게 될 것 같습니다. 스페셜과 하스 선수가 기대하고 있는데 어떤 선수 만나고 싶으신가요?
Your next opponent will also be one of the non-Koreans, either Special or Haas. Which opponent do you prefer to meet?
하스 선수랑 하면은 굉장히 또 게임이 재밌어질 것 같아가지고 기대는 되지만은 아무래도 그 스페셜 선수하고 붙는 게 저번 블리즈컨에서 졌었던 복수도 하고 또 스페셜 선수하고 붙는 것도 또 되게 재밌을 것 같아가지고 네 스페셜 선수랑 보고 싶습니다.
Although it's quite interesting to have a match with Haas, I would like to have my revenge against Special from last year's BlizzCon. So I would prefer to play versus Special, and I think both of us can create interesting matches.
네. 김대엽 선수는 2년째 GSL 대 더월드를 참여하고 있습니다. 2년 차로서 이번 무대에서 어떤 모습 보여주고 싶은지 마지막으로 한 말씀 들어보겠습니다.
This is your second annual attendance of GSL versus the world. What are your goals for this tournament?
일단은 작년에는 제가 4강까지 갔다가 신영이한테 3대 0으로 허무하게 떨어졌어요. 이번에는 또 준비 열심히 해가지고 4강을 뛰어넘는 이런 성적을 보여드릴 테니까 많은 기대와 응원 부탁드리겠습니다.
Last year, I lost in the semifinals versus Innovation with an 0-3 of score. Those matches were pretty lethargic, in my opinion. In order not to repeat such failures, I'll try to prepare as much as possible in the given time and hopefully win the whole thing.
네, 다시 한번 축하드리겠습니다. Okay, we will be back with our last match.